Hello again. See, I'm not just the one-trick pony. This is now my second ever Dawn of War 2 cast, which is 2 more casts than Hunter. Today we got Ruthless at heart versus DarkHero on Ashes of Typhon, with Ruthless playing as the Inquisitor and DarkHero, or Valhero, or Valerie, as I like to call him, much to his I guess lack of amusement. Yeah, Valerie. Also known as DarkHero, but I quite like Valerie. It's a nice, it's a cute little name for him. And Ashes of Typhon, kind of a semi-popular 1v1 map, and one that personally I kind of like. It has got this weird thing though, where the ground is obviously grey, right? This isn't in the Fog of War. This ground is grey. But when you look at the map, it's like this teal, turquoise, kind of cyan colour. And I got no idea why, because it obviously isn't that colour. And it's only this map, so hey. Just relic things, I guess. So Warlock goes around, he's causing a bit of a stir here versus these guardsmen, but otherwise he's going to pick up a few models, delay the cap, and then have to get out of there. DarkHero really just sort of stalling for time, it looks like. And I'm going to try to pretend to act surprised at lots of the purchases in this game, but to be honest, I got halfway through this cast, or a bit more than halfway through, and then I got a really loud phone call. And it really annoyed me and threw me off. And I guess I probably could have paused and like cut the cast and, you know, re-recorded it. Recorded the next bit. But I was so annoyed that I decided, you know, fuck it. I'm just gonna record the whole thing, start to finish, because I don't want to break in the middle of it. So I'm gonna do an angry cast. Sentinel getting an angry stomp there on those Dire Avengers, and you know, Ruthless just proving why everyone hates the Sentinel, because, well, it can do this. Shuffle up, do some decent damage, even that shield goes down instantly. DarkHero just stalling for time, but he's gonna lose the model trade because, well, the Sentinel doesn't bleed. And it's interesting that, you know, DarkHero does go for Banshees, because you know, they kind of typically aren't seen to be so useful versus Imperial Guard, but, you know, just because it's the meta doesn't mean that it's the best thing to do. If DarkHero knows what he's trying to do with them, then no reason not to get them. You can make anything work. Well, mostly. I mean, an army of entirely Rippers probably wouldn't work, but, you know, if you've got really big brain strats, maybe. But at the moment it's kind of slowly going in the favour of DarkHero. No, not DarkHero. Going in the favour of Ruthless, as he caps up most of the map. Cheeky little grenade goes off, but it's not really going to hit anything. The Sentinel kind of brazenly pushing up versus that Guardian Weapons team. It will have to be forced off, because that Guardian Weapons team is kind of unique, I guess. It's an advantage and a disadvantage in that that front model will never die. So in this case, the Sentinel can't hope that it kills the front model and forces a new one to set up. But then of course you get things like a Lictor with the flesh hook, who can just flesh hook the lead model and, well, play with its food for a bit. And she's making sure the Inquisitor minds her own business instead of poking around in theirs on the bottom side. And Catachans are the tier 1.5 unit of choice for Ruthless, which is another interesting purchase. I guess you have to be careful getting things like heavy weapons teams, and Catachans are just sort of nicely all round. They're not amazing at like everything, but they're kind of like the jack of all trades unit. Sentinel goes for a stomp and retreat, but he's not going to get another model. I know, spoiler from the future, he doesn't get another model, because the Catachans get forced off by this weapons team. What is interesting though is, of course, that DarkHero has got 2 ranges. And I'm not really sure if that's an Overwatch mistake or if this is a part of the strat. He's already kind of committing to a pretty heavy tier 1 in terms of power expenditure. You know, and it really shows in the difference in power between the two. 115 or so power for Ruthless versus, well, 12 for DarkHero. Ruthless going with a much more typically Imperial Guard tier 1 of spend as little power as possible and just rush a vehicle out in tier 2. But the double ranges and the Banshees are certainly an interesting purchase versus Ruthless, because you kind of have to wonder what he's planning to do with the Rangers. I don't know if one shot from the Ranger will kill a Guardsman model. I don't think it will. I guess he's hoping that 1, he can spot IEDs, and 2, he can apply pressure from afar on that Sentinel. Because they will do nicely in controlling things like these Katas, but off he goes. Nice little shotgun blast into Old Reliable there. Decent damage on that Old Reliable. I'm always surprised, like, just how much damage it does. It's got great long range disruption and incredible damage. It's really everything you could ever want. Sentinel though making itself known, taking a Banshee model down, and his Rangers in the meantime causing a bit of a problem. And this is where we say goodbye to the Sentinel, because even with that stomp versus that heavy weapons team, well, I can tell you that in about 30 seconds time the Sentinel's gonna die. Sorry for the spoiler. I can't tell you who wins though, I don't know that. But Ruthless is doing something very strange here. Like, he could have saved the Sentinel had he brought it down the bottom side. And sure, the Rangers might have spotted it, but, you know, not necessarily. He doesn't know that for certain. What he does know for certain is that decapping something with this is going to get it killed. And I'm pretty sure he planned for this. Although DarkHero's use of this Guardian Weapons team is a bit strange. But interestingly, we see the Bane Wolf called straight into the base by Ruthless at heart, which is a very rare unit to see nowadays. Inquisitor typically considered the worst Imperial Guard hero and often the worst hero in the game. So I guess we'll see how things work out for her. But you know, he seems to be making use of the Inquisitor's kit reasonably well. And of course, classic Bane Wolf move goes straight for the power, because, well, if it doesn't, how the hell is it going to pay for itself? This thing is... it's one of the weirder units in the game. Like, it's a flamer on a vehicle, essentially. So it's either really good or really shit. It feels like that's just, like, there's no in between. But in this case, you know, when it comes to destroying gen farms, there's really not much more you can ask for, because it's a vehicle after all. What are you going to do to it? You've got to get AV out to defend your gen farm. But in this case, not a lot that DarkHero can do. He's hoping on the Bright Lance coming into play, but it's still upgrading. And whilst it is upgrading, well, there's a lot this Bane Wolf can do. It's not firing. Here we go, he does finally shoot. He's taking a lot of damage. In fact, one more shot would probably kill that, but he does just manage to get out of range. And even with the path blocking from the Rangers, it's not quite enough. Sneaky gate down here, but not a very well hidden sneaky gate, because even without the Katas, the chance of the units walking into the path of that, pretty high. Pretty high. So we see Ogrins coming out now for Ruthless, which is an interesting choice, I think, because with double Rangers, there's a lot you can do to control them, and these Banshees, if the Ogrins don't have use your head, the Banshees are going to do a lot of damage to them. So I do wonder quite what he's planning to do with them. It is one of the more interesting choices by Ruthless. These Banshees just really need to get out of here. And I do really question what Ruthless has been doing this game. His use of vehicles is very strange. Because as you can see in this case, DarkHero is just path blocking with the Rangers. And for some reason, Ruthless just goes back into the path of that Guardian Weapons team, which he must have known was there. I mean, you assume he knew it was there, but you can't be certain, I guess. But the irony here is that the debuff that slows units hit by the Bane Wolf was actually causing the Bane Wolf to be path blocked even more, because it slowed down the Rangers so they couldn't get out of the way of the vehicle. Which is kind of, you know, big brain, if it was intentional. Warlock cooldown, which seems a bit preemptive. He has just killed that Bane Wolf, which is nice, but not really much reason to cool down the Warlock now. Wait for an engagement, and I mean, to be honest, she almost gets killed. If there was the Hammer of the Witches available a little bit later, then, well, she would have died, and she could easily have died to the Ogrins in retreat. So DarkHero making some slightly questionable plays here. But if you look at his economy, it has been absolutely, well, not decimated, annihilated, really. He's getting his natural power decapped. He has a semi-natural capped by Ruthless. And pretty much everything but one wreck point decapped. So there's going to be a lot of catching up to do for DarkHero, but if anything, this is one of DarkHero's great strengths. He is not put off easily. You know, he is someone who is tenacious.
Sir, we're losing a victory point out there.
Like, you know, if you're trying to think of a good example, if you're eating like food and someone starts talking about something disgusting, and then they say, oh, don't say that, I'm eating that, oh, you'll put me off my food. I can imagine DarkHero could eat anything, and you could like tell him about the weirdest, most disgusting, goriest stories, and he'd just be munching away pretty happily, like, oh, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. I'll finish my burger. I'll finish my, you know, fucking ground up, minced bag of intestines whilst you tell me about your job in a butcher's. That's DarkHero's mentality when it comes to Dawn of War 2. He is not phased at all. You know, it doesn't matter if he has 1 VP, he'll treat it like he's got 500, because he's still in the game. DarkHero only loses when he runs out of VPs. Meanwhile, very, very nice little grenade there on that approach. Those Ogrins looking super unhealthy. They will make it out of there, but it's a pretty close call. If that grenade had hit slightly better, or he'd been able to get a slightly better kinetic pulse off, well, I don't think they'd still be there. However, Ruthless is now in tier 3. So DarkHero's got to watch out. He's got a lot of wreck. He really needs to be repurchasing his power. But the map control is slowly sliding back in his favour. He doesn't really have much in the way of resource income, obviously, because, well, no power. Let's see what he can do. Warlock just kind of idly standing there, not really sure what he's planning to do with that. But just Warlock things. So, Inquisitor just having a bit of an argument with that Guardian Weapons team. And this Autarch just constantly seems a bit lonely. You know, she's kind of caught off guard all the time. She's never around the Banshees to support. The Autarch seems like a bit of a knee-jerk response from DarkHero. The kind of thing that you do just because you can. And that grenade Okay, so this was something I saw when I cast this game earlier. That grenade just is a dud. Like, I swear, I'm not imagining that. That grenade, it landed, but there was no timer, there was no explosion, just nothing happened. And I've seen what I thought to be dud grenades in the past, but I was proven wrong. But in this case, that was literally a dud. Nothing happened. Must be an extremely rare bug. But DarkHero's going to need a rare bug to keep that weapons team alive, and, well, no rare bug this time, so they die. Ogren's amazingly making it out with 4 models. And again, this Autarch, she's just... What is she doing? She's so lonely. The Banshees are always late to the fight, and the Autarch is always way too early. They really, really need to get their schedules in order. You know, it's like sort of... Autarch is working day shift, and the Banshees are working night shift. But there's a little bit of overlap between them, where they can sort of have a coffee for 15 minutes. And sort of the Autarch goes back to her fucking Wraithbone cryopod or whatever Eldar have to sleep in. Probably hammocks. Eldar are exactly the kind of people who would sleep in hammocks. Like, just because they could, they'd be like, oh, it's what our ancestors did, so we do it too. Special little spirit stone hammocks. Bit of a map control trade going on right now, but Ruthless is winning. I mean, that's kind of undoubted, really. He's winning because he's got the big fat tank with a plasma cannon on it, and, well, these are Rangers and Guardians, or Dyers, whatever you want to call them. Kind of rare use of Embolden there. You kind of rarely see Embolden used. I mean, I feel like you rarely see it used. It's certainly one of those abilities that people neglect, but it's so useful. It's really weird. It like restores courage to the squad and gives them a damage boost. You know, just for like 25 energy. It's super spammable, and I know there's been a bit of talk about Embolden and its uses, and you know, people questioning, well, why does it give a damage boost? You know, it's super spammable. Why does it do that? And I guess I can kind of understand, just because there's no weapon upgrade on the unit, but it is definitely one of the more curious aspects of Eldar. But hey, I'm not an Eldar expert, and as much as I like to pretend to be, I don't know shit. Flamer Guardsmen doing what they do best, burning down power. Pretty much has been their job all game, and, well, I mean, they do it pretty well. So here we see a cheeky IED placed down by Ruthless, and, you know, even with 2 Rangers on the field, Ruthless is not neglecting the IEDs. And again, I think this ties into the whole idea of the Embolden. It's about how abilities get used, but I will return to that thought after this engagement, because this is an interesting one. He's got the warp spiders ready, and they do throw their haywire, but they're not fighting currently, and in fact, well, not much is fighting. These Banshees are actually doing quite well against those Ogryns, and the Ogryns are incredibly lucky to make it out. It's only because of the Catachans. But most of DarkHero's army wasn't fighting in that engagement, because they were infiltrated, and of course they won't automatically attack. Rocket Run comes down. Warp Spiders do get out, but those Rangers are, well, not so lucky. And neither is that Warlock. They are going to do a decent amount of damage, but ultimately, even with the caps on these VPs and resources, Ruthless still wins that engagement. He did pour more resources into it, but he wins.
Sir, we're losing a victory point out there.
He's going to be able to get these VPs back, at least for a while, but there is a sneaky gate going up there, and Ruthless doesn't see it. Quick little retreat cancel here from the Commissar, and it will be enough to burn them off the power. So Ruthless just always making sure that he keeps pressure up, but this is something I don't like about Ruthless. he's very slow to repair his vehicles, and so far he's played pretty well, but it's really one of the key flaws in his strategy. He just never gets a chance to repair his stuff, and perhaps that's partly DarkHero creating opportunities to exploit that, but it feels very much like a behaviour of Ruthless. Warlock just goes in, causes a bit of a fuss and gets out. IED meanwhile pretty safely spotted by these rangers, and this is what I mean by embolden and the IEDs is these abilities are essentially free. You know, obviously they have a cooldown and they have an energy cost, but they're the kind of things that you can spam, and in the case of Katachans, even versus 1 or 2 rangers, you know, say you plant 10 IEDs in the match, sure, DarkHero might spot all of them, or he might spot 9 of them, you know, and then there's always the potential for that 10th IED to do a bit of disruption, get a kill in retreat. You know, it's just a bit of extra added pressure because DarkHero knows that he has to be watching out for those IEDs, because wherever the rangers aren't, there could be an IED waiting. And that's one of the things that I really like about Katas, is just even when they're off the field, they're still providing some form of pressure. Because you never know. Because now that he's seen them, he will have to make a mental note that, hey, they could be out there. Inquisitor's loadout is a bit strange. She's got tier 1 war gears that she didn't have in tier 1. They were bought in tier 2, I think. And then she has Pegasus. Very unlucky, I think, there by DarkHero to not kill that Guardsman squad. They were incredibly low. But as you can see, like, DarkHero hasn't been phased. He has been slowly scraping the map back, and really scraping. You know, he came so close to losing in tier 1 and tier 2. Although if he keeps making plays like that, well, you do have to wonder a bit. He must have known that that was not going to work. You know, even if he'd got the haywire off on the Lehman earlier, the Inquisitor could just tie them up reasonably well. But I guess at this point he's getting a bit greedy. And it's kind of funny to see how the VP pressure has just completely shifted, even without the power income for DarkHero. He's just managed to make this work, because Ruthless is bleeding Requisition hard, but he's got 300 power. Whereas DarkHero is absolutely powerless, but his rec income is still fine. So it's certainly interesting to see how the resources have kind of flip-flopped for them. But it's it feels like it's just sort of suddenly not feeling good for Ruthless, who was in such a dominant position. But these Ogryns have been a bit of an odd choice. They've been shut down at pretty much every turn. And you do just have to wonder what some of Ruthless's plays were. Like, his vehicle management has been kind of questionable. Obviously it's just me saying it, but you know, whatever. Cheeky grenade going down on the feet. And then the Autarch comes in. Again, early. Before the Banshees, way before. But let's see if this works out. It really just looks like Ruthless doesn't have that much he can use to respond with. And even though DarkHero's lost his main source of AV, this Lehman can't hold everything back by itself. And the Wraith Guard are certainly going to make things more difficult for it.
Do you see it?
So it's kind of an interesting dynamic they've got at the moment. Ruthless's infantry force, it's not bad, but it is slightly lacking. And it's just enough that this Lehman is a little bit isolated. Interesting now that he's got an autocannon weapons team. He's taking a lot of friendly fire from the Lehman, actually. Although these warp spiders dangerously low. He's going to lose a weapons team, and things are looking pretty dire now for Ruthless. He has no requisition income, just going to be bleeding like a stuffed pig from reinforcing all of his models. And now he's got to make the decision. Does he reinforce the guardsman? Does he just use them as a repair unit? Although, to be honest, it doesn't look like he's going to have a vehicle to repair pretty soon, because what the hell is he doing with this Lehman? You know, these constant rear armor hits that the Wraith Guard are kind of getting is a bit insane. It's doing good damage to them, but that Lehman is kind of put out of the fight for a while. Is he going to lose them? Come on, this Ranger squad. No, they're dead. Finally, the other Ranger squad goes down, and this Autarch is not looking too healthy, but she might be able to get a jump or a sky leap. He needs to do something to save her. She's going to die. And I mean, that kind of sums up the Autarch in this game, basically. She turns up, does something, and Ruthless was about to nuke his own Ogrins. So, yeah. Interesting one there. But otherwise, that was kind of an interesting game to watch. Like, Ruthless, obviously super aggressive at the start, and really showed how the Sentinel can just turn things around if played right. DarkHero, though, he's tenacious. He does not give up. Really doesn't. He doesn't take no for an answer. And it really shows, because look at this switch around. 0 VPs to 162, when before there was a far greater difference in Ruthless's favour. And I feel like we can all aspire to be that. A little bit more like DarkHero.